Cool. Hello, everyone. And it's another week. I guess who wants to kick off our demo?
I can start for Ismari and I. Could you enable sharing, please?
Adjusted.
Cool. All right. Okay. You guys should be able to see the app, right? Okay, awesome. So this week we worked on essentially adding validation to the user inputs on our add item functionality. So to do that, the things that we were essentially checking for were making sure that a user can't enter an empty item. So I have nothing in my item field right now. If I try to hit add item, we get an error message saying, please enter an item name. If I tried to enter an item that's just empty spaces, I should get the same thing. And then the other side of that we were checking for was checking for duplicates of things that already exist on your list, even if they're maybe formatted slightly differently or the user inputs don't match exactly, but the meaning is the same. We wanted that to be called out to the user as well. So I go to my list for a second just to peek at what's on here. Okay, you can see butter with a lowercase b is on there. I'll use that for my test. So if I try to do butter exactly the same, tells me that's already on my shopping list. Or if I do it with a capital B, it says the same thing. It's already on my shopping list, even though the casing was slightly different. And we also went a little bit further and included spaces and special characters in our checks. So if I just like add in some weird stuff in there, hopefully a no user is going to try and do that, but it's recognizing that that matched butter, the item that was already on our list. So none of those were added. But if I do something new, oh, it's not on my list. Pickles. That works. And that was added to the list. So we didn't break any other existing functionality in what we were checking for here. Thanks everyone for your comments and feedback. I know we had a question around this locale compare method, so I want to just kind of talk about that unless anybody had other questions they want to start with or comments. Okay. So yeah, if we look at that validation is happening within our handle submit function here, specifically in this find method. And within that, we're using locale compare. So when we both first started like brainstorming about how to do this, I think we both first thought of, oh, we could do like a to lowercase and then string it along with maybe a trim to remove spaces and then compare the values, something like that. Maybe we use a regex to include special characters in there somehow. But as we were researching, I found this locale compare method, which is really cool. I'd never used it before, but it essentially allows us to include all of those checks in just this one kind of more robust method rather than chaining multiple things together. So the way this works is right now we are comparing two values. So that's our item name from the input along with all of the item dot names in our existing Firestore list. Those are the two comparisons. And then we add a few extra options here to specify how precisely we want these comparisons to be working. So the first option is we're specifying where our locale is English. We're checking kind of on like the English standards of vocabulary and the alphabet. You could change this to whatever locale most of your users are working in, or I believe we could map it like if our app was saying use the person's browser locale, we could do the same thing here. So it's kind of matched that way. We just went with English as kind of our default for now. And then the third option here is where it gets kind of cool. So this object is specifying more of those particular things that we're checking for. So applying sensitivity to base means that we are, I believe it was ignoring any accents or casing. So uppercase, lowercase, and yeah, any accents, those would be treated as the same character value, regardless of what differences there are. And then the second property here, ignore punctuation set to true. That is saying we also want to ignore any spaces and any special characters. So by using this one kind of more robust method with these additional options set to what we wanted to specify for, we were able to do the same thing that we had originally thought of. That would have been kind of a little bit of a longer way to do it. So I don't think either of us had ever worked with this before. So it's kind of fun to play around with it. And it worked out, the same way that as kind of our first thought would have. Hopefully that made some sense.
Yeah, that's so cool. Did
Yeah,
did it
thought
talk
so
about
too.
the time complexity? I'm just curious. Was it similar to regex?
The time complexity?
Like when you compare things? Like never mind. I'll do my
I'm
research.
not,
I report
yeah, I'm
back.
not sure. This is a string comparison method, so I'm not sure.
We didn't explicitly talk about it, but I am curious to see like what the differences would be between like a regex time complexity versus like using this particular method.
Cool. I'll do my research too. This is cool.
Yeah, kind of a fun new thing. And then the rest of this is, I think, kind of clear. We do have those couple little error messages or kind of user notifications that come up depending on what happened. Did I miss anything, Ismari?
No, I think you got everything. Thank you for breaking that down perfectly.
Cool.
Yeah, really nice job. Any questions before we move on to the next group?
I have one. What happens if you try to add pickles, but with Z instead of S?
Pickles with a Z would be a
Yeah.
new item. So that gets
Okay,
added to your
nice.
list. Mhm.
Nice. Nice, nice. Great job. That was the question, by the way. We can move. Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Well, I guess Satoshi, no surprise.
Yeah. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, this week, Christina and me worked on task 10. There's two things to do: implement utilize the calculate estimate and the get days between dates function. Yeah, first we tried the second part because it's separated. Just we need to create util functions, which is this. We just take two arguments, the start date and date, and then that is supposed to be the data type is a date. So that date has a get time function, which converts the date to milliseconds, total milliseconds. So we can calculate the difference, the end date from start date, and then divide the 1 day in milliseconds, which gives days difference between the start date and date, and then I need to round up to get the exact integer of the days. That is this function. And calculate estimate, I will demonstrate. the application. Yeah, first time. Yeah, right now I have a first time item, which just user added the item to the list. They didn't buy the item yet. So the total purchase is 0 for the moment. And let's see. I just added this item, but for the explanation reason, I make this 2 days ago. The user added the item 2 days ago. Okay. Then and the user decided to buy today 17. Okay. For explanation reason, I use my local repository to show the console. Okay. For the first time item, the application calculate the actual day user bought the item and when the user added the item. So that was, in this case, it passed 2 days, and then the application used 2 days for the estimation for next purchase, which is 2 days after today, and it'll be 19th, Tuesday, September 19th. And the calculate estimate next purchase function act differently after second purchase because they have data. And I'll show you the second. And see, rice. Okay. Yeah, rice total purchase is already 12. So they have accumulated estimation data. Like date last purchase is 14 and the date next purchase is 18. So the application projected it takes 4 days. The user will go back to buy. And this is a past accumulated estimation. And then today is 17 and actual time passed. Today the user decided to buy, so actual time passes 3 days. So they take average 3 days plus 4 days, 7 days, and 3.5 and round up. So it will be 4 days from today. So the estimation data next purchase will be September 21. And I click on rice. Yeah. You can see the calculation here. Yeah, they actually do some taking the weights with the total purchase number, but roughly I can say they just take the average of accumulated estimated time and the actual time passed from last purchase. Yeah, I hope everyone makes sense, and that's it.
Thank you for sharing. It's a hard demo to do. I feel it's a lot of calculation and dates.
Any question?
I had one. Yeah, dates are super challenging, so great job on this. Yeah, personally, I still have issues with dates. It's, yeah, hard. I was just curious, did you decide on using how did you decide on the time zone? Because I'm seeing central time zone in your timestamps.
Oh, I think this is the function takes their machine's local time. If you try it on your end, you will see your time zone, I guess.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah, and the one I merged is without the comments and console. I just use my one last commit for the demonstration.
Cool. Yeah, great job. Yeah, there's so many gotchas with this, and also just the fact that it's not even in the UI, having to go into the console. So yeah, fantastic job demoing.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, it was really helpful having these comment or the console logs in there to help test it as the people who didn't work on it. So really appreciated that.
Yeah, because I when we tried, it was very confusing to understand. So I thought it would be helpful. And great to hear. Thanks.
Yeah, such a great way to help the reviewers to review the PR for sure. Beautiful job. Any other questions? No? Okay, cool. Moving on to our learning module. So let me share my screen. Sorry to kick you out, Satoshi. Okay. And everybody see my screen, the slide? Perfect. Awesome. So today we're talking about communication for devs because communication is the key. I know a lot of us are from non-traditional background, so communication is definitely one of the transferable skills we have, and we should be proud of it, and also we should showcase it, especially during interviews. And documentation is a great way to show great communication. So we'll share a lot of what, why, hows. This is how the slides structured. And why do we document? So think about if you work on a long project, and so it's a great way to help you to remember what you did. And by writing things down, it's going to help you really solidify what you've learned. And if a team, for example, a team wants to make a big decisions on something and you've done a tons of research, it's a great way to document everything. So next time, if you need to make another decision, you don't have to do the research again. And it's so useful for onboarding new members. Think about, when you join a team, and of course, your manager will spend a lot of time on you. And instead of like knowledge dump on you, I think documentation is a great way to help you to learn things on your own and also to revisit things that you manager or team members talk about. And documentation is it should avoid institutional knowledge, meaning like there shouldn't be like one people or a group of people knows everything. And documentation is going to help the team to really learn and also to know how everything works. It is also a great way to empower our team members to have a sense of ownership. And for me, my experience in HR, I feel it's great to have documentations so people can cross-functionally train each other. So for example, so that person knows it all, can take vacations. And how we do that? So again, think about the junior dev that joined the team, really write for that person who knows the least. Really be detailed, really giving more context, refer to the links that you mentioned. And how do you optimize the documentations? I think it's a great way to optimize it for the people knows the most. For example, when you want to refer something or your team member wants to refer something, they just want to have a quick glance on things and formatting it in a way that people can just follow really easily. For example, like bullet points, order list, and code block. Instead of like typing it out, use code blocks, just make it really easy to read. And here's a great example that I really love. It's right here. So yeah, bold headline and really easy to glance. Use the code block here and bullet points. and also links right here. Cool. Let's go back to the slide. Another what? So pull request is another great way to show great communication. All of you are doing a beautiful job. And usually on a big team, you don't really know what each others are working on. So it's a great way to give context to other reviewers on your code. And I want to shout out, this is really a big part of interviewing, to talk about your code. And I know some of the interviewers actually just looking at the PR descriptions. So it's really important to have a documentations. And it's also public, so it's easier for you to go back and remember what you did. And how to make PR review really shine. So use a lot of screenshots, GIFs, and videos, which we're already doing, and that's great. And links to resources and permalinks to code you refer. So I want to show really quick how to do permalink. Let's see, let's go back to our code base actually. Yeah, I was playing with it. Let me do another one. So click on this line and then shift, and then click on the lines you want to stop, and then you can just create a permalink. Meaning like no matter how your code base changes, it will always refer to this block of code in your code base. I think it's a great way to really refer to if you need to refer to a block of code. And this is really what I've learned recently too. Self-review before asking others to review your code. And is there a question? Yeah, please jump in if you have any questions or examples what I'm talking about here. And it's really great way for you to really, okay, I think Satoshi mentioned like once you look back, it's actually easy, meaning like you've really learned what you did this week. And also it's totally okay to ask questions. For example, if you're not sure what you did is correct, I think it's a beautiful way to really encourage others to jump in and collaborate. And another way to keep the PR really small and narrowly scoped, make it easier for you to really documenting everything that you did, and also make it easier for the reviewers to review it. And I'm going to include this in the Slack channel later, so you can take a look. Great PR description. And another what? So comments in code. I'm actually curious from Alejandro and Daniel's on this, because I heard some teams really love it, some teams hate it. And do you have like examples to share, like your experience working, at your current team or previous ones?
I can jump in.
Please do.
So, all right. Oh gosh. So with comments, you need comments saying, this is my opinion, right? So saying that you don't need to write comments and the code explain itself. For me, that is a mistake. Like, if you need a comment, you need a comment, But when you write comments, you have to be aware that you have to maintain them, right? So a comment you write is something that you have to be aware of, like it exists, and it is really dangerous to have a comment that says something, but the code does something else, right? So be aware of that. And I wouldn't try to not write comments that explain like the code itself. For instance, I left a comment in the PR this weekend, about comments, actually. And it's basically, in this case, you had this if statement and you had like the condition is like total purchases equals to 1, right? And the comment says like, if it's the first time that you buy something, right? So in that case, I would try to like rewrite the comment or delete it. So rewrite it to be something like, this is the first time, like for business reasons, blah, blah, blah. We have to do something like blah, blah, blah. You know, like when the user first performs, I don't know, the first buy of an item or something like that, you know, if that makes sense. Instead of explaining like what the code is doing, because like you can see it, you know? So if it is, I try to make comments like more aligned to why did I make the decision instead of what the code is doing. And I will link the comment in the PR in the Slack channel. So yeah, so if you need comments, use them, but be aware of updating them when you have to. Yep.
Yeah, I think, yeah, kind of following up on that, I feel like, yeah, it's really important for providing context on like why you made the decision that you made and the moment that you wrote that code. Because a lot of times, like I will go into an existing code base and you see something like that looks completely ridiculous. And you're like, why would someone do this? And like, it's helpful to be like, you know, hey, the business requirements weren't quite clear yet, so we decided to go with this. Yeah, I think from my experience, it's mostly, yeah, business requirements aren't 100% clear yet. So you have to make a decision to implement something. And then just kind of leaving that there as, you know, a breadcrumb for future use sometimes, but sometimes also, you know, new people working on a part of code that you wrote.
Yeah, thank you. You kind of touch on both. It's like really sharing the context, just really helping others to trade through the code that you implemented. And also, both of you also mentioned really emphasize the why. Sometimes the decision is not really that self-apparent, and both of you mentioned that. So really emphasize the why when you read the comment. It's going to help yourself and also help your team members. Cool. Then how to write a comment. Really focus on the why again. This code was written rather than what the code does. Exactly what Alejandro said. And here's a great example of code comment. Really emphasize on the how. One moment. So basically it says don't mess with this. So once if you have a like task on around this component, just be really careful. And I think it's really important to have your team members to read this and okay, I need to be really careful around this thing. Cool. Awesome. So I'm curious about all of your experience. You know, what have your experience with documentations, like great communication, PR descriptions, code comments? Please share like good ones or bad ones. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing so I can see you. Anyone? How's your experience so far with the Collab Lab, like the PR review cycles and also, you know, writing comments? Many of you are already doing that.
Yeah, the format, the pull request format template helps us to better documentation. If I don't have templates, we will be very plain or less explanations, I believe. So yeah, so far I doing a good practice with the templates.
I think too, like once you get into, a job with other software engineers, and if you are like questioning, someone like, how does this, thing that you built work? Don't hesitate to be like, oh yeah, could you document that? I actually have a coworker that like consistently does this to me, and I really love that he does it, because it kind of reminds me like, oh yeah, you should write, like we don't use Notion, we use Confluence, but like, oh yeah, you should, describe this in a Confluence doc. And I really love that he does that, because I often forget to do that.
That's awesome.
Danielle, for those,
Oh,
sorry, I just have a question about that.
Go ahead.
Those documentations that you just mentioned, Danielle, would those be like linked somewhere in your repo, or like how would those be kind of used and shared with the rest of your team after you create them? I'm just curious.
Well, we use Confluence. Typically what I personally do is like there's only maybe like 10 developers on my team, so smaller company might not work elsewhere, but after I update something, I believe everyone does get an automatic email of like, hey, there was an update in your space, but I do go like above and beyond of like, hey, I just updated how our GitHub actions work, like have a look, link.
Cool.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure this will help the new employees if someone joins. Yeah. Some of the companies like doesn't really have any documentations, actually have junior folks to lead this kind of effort, because this person knows the least, which is a lot of things to do, but I feel it's fair, right? It's a fair request. Really like having that effort, and then help the newcomers later in the future.
Yeah, I think that's definitely very helpful. But I can also speak kind of contrarian like too, as a junior dev that did that. It turned into, at least at my company, it turned into, oh, Danielle's really good at writing docs. And then I turned into the
Oh,
doc writing person. So like be a little aware of that. You
yeah.
don't want to get, pushed into the corner of like, oh, this person's great at writing docs, because, you want to write code and be technical and all that. But yeah, what you
Yeah.
said, yes, but also
Yeah,
be a little
find a
careful.
balance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, learn how to push back. I guess another thing is really want to I know for a lot of suggestions I get is really know what you want to work on and try to push back a little, like, okay, here's some things I want to work on, and just be verbalizing what you want to work on. It's going to help your managers, right? Help your team members remember, oh, okay, she wants to work on something else. Yeah.
Quick question. Do you feel like anybody on your software developer team, regardless, like this is like an open question for everybody, that you may unintentionally feign ignorance on something because you don't want to be like pushed into a corner to doing something that you don't want to do?
Yeah, I feel like anecdotally, and like this is just kind of a one-off thing, but yeah, my last job, there was definitely a principal level engineer that did not want to do any DevOps tasks. And this might have been like an individual issue. But yeah, it's like he was great at writing code, but then like the second that he wrote code, regarding like S3 or anything in the infrastructure, I found that there were often things like IAM permissions didn't work. So it's like it would work locally and like in his sandbox, but then when we deployed it to staging or prod, a lot of times there would be like a permissions error, things like that. So yeah, I feel like, I don't know, I can only speak for myself, but I feel like one of the biggest challenges that I have, being a little more on the DevOps side, has been trying to get software engineers to test things out like in the environment it's going to be working in. And I think with this particular individual, I think he was trying to avoid that extra responsibility. But most of the time, like I try to, do my best of assuming good intent, I guess. I don't know better terminology than that, but
Yeah,
it's
just was curious. Sorry.
no worries. Yeah, it's tough. It's because you are our peers, right? Sometimes they're more senior than you, so it's giving it a nudge. I don't know how, but yeah, it's
yeah. Yeah, I
yeah,
try to approach it as like, let's pair on it together, or like I'm happy
yeah.
to share what I know with you. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Depends on an individual basis, I think, and different people's egos and things like that. So I think that was kind of an extreme situation because he was a very, you know, sure of himself type of guy, and he didn't really like getting feedback from someone like me, I guess.
Hmm. Did you try to give feedback?
Yeah, I did. It's a little tricky. Yeah. And then like also like I kind of noticed too, it's like each company kind of has its own level of politicking. So like
Hmm.
I know like whenever I run into situations like that, I always try to talk to the individual first. And then
Yeah.
if I'm running into roadblocks, that's usually when like I'll bring it up with my manager, and not necessarily in a like, hey, can you take this off my hands type of ask, more like how have you
How to
had
approach it?
success?
Hmm.
Yeah, like how can I approach this a little bit better? But
Yeah, that's really good to know because not too long ago I actually had an interview where they basically asked me that question. How would you handle a situation where you're working with someone in a team and they're not really pulling their weight with whatever like that task is? Would you go to the person directly or would you elevate it to like your manager? So that's good to know, just anecdotally.
Yeah, I feel like we're humans, right? There will be conflict. Like you can't avoid it. So I think for any conflict, like goes to the source is always the first step. And if you can't resolve it, then again, I love Danielle's approach. Like ask the manager, how do you approach it? And then try it again. Yeah, maybe then escalate it later. Yeah, but I guess that's the last resort. Cool.
Just to add that, use your manager. Your manager is, it is sounds kind of weird, but he's a great tool, or she is like, I don't know what to do here. Guide me. And that person like help you out. I mean, that's the job of a manager. So just rely on them. If you are like, I don't know what to do. I do that often. So yeah. So speaking about experiences with comments, I was going to mention a bad one. So I was working on something at Zapier on a survey. I think that exists today. So the comment probably is there still. It's been years now. And I know that comment was there for 2 years. So we were working on this survey that when you open Zapier, it pops up on the bottom right and it asks a few questions. And I remember that all the engineering team, we were like transitioning into a design system. And someone was like, yeah, we should put this survey into the design system. We should do it. Like that person was really pushy. And I was like, I don't want to do that. So what I did was, okay, I'm going to create a Jira ticket and I will link that to the code. That's what I did. So I was like, okay, once we ship this survey to, because it was still in dev. So when we ship this, we need to move this to the design system. We never moved it. I never did it. And before leaving the company, after 3 years, I saw that code and I was like, oh my gosh, what is this? And it was me. So yeah, that was kind of funny. It was like, oh yeah, that is not going to happen at all. Probably that comment is still there. I'm pretty sure. So
It's public.
so yeah, that is like, yeah, we need to move this and this is the ticket for follow-up, blah, blah, blah. But never happened. So when you write a comment, be aware of that. I have another thing. One thing that has helped me a lot with my communication is to have I have some sort of diary. I call it a workload. So it is basically saying like, just for you, like today I worked on this ticket that is about, I don't know, whatever, this button. And I tried this approach, didn't work. Tried this approach, didn't work. Tried this one, it did work, right? And by the next day, when you have to report, like when you have to write your stand-up status or you are in stand-up call or whatever, you just read what you did the last day and it will help you articulate way better. And the more you write, the better it gets, especially when, for instance, if you are in the promotion cycle, right? You can go and look all the things that you've done in the last 3-6 months and all the wins you have, and then you will have a solid case for your promotion or a raise or something. So that is also really good. What has happened to me in the past is that I forgot what I do. Usually I'm like kind of, I don't know, distracted sometimes. So when I joined the stand-up call, it's like, I think I work on the button, but I don't give any other details, and I should. But if you have that written down, it is really easy. You just read it, and that's it. So that's a tip for communication. It works a lot. Works really well, at least for me. Yeah, that's what I have.
Yeah, it's not just you. It's so hard to remember what you did. Yeah. So
I love that.
I love the diary.
I was gonna say, like, I was reading another software developer's like kind of experience, like on like their first job, and they were talking about the same thing, keeping like a diary of like what they worked on every week, things that they were able to improve on, so that when it did come to like review time with their managers, like they could actually like pinpoint like what specifically like accomplishments that they had, and it made like their review process go much quicker, and like the hiring manager, whoever like was reviewing them, really appreciated like their detailed documentation, and they were able to get promotions from that alone, because like they would also have like very frequent like one-on-ones with them, and keeping detailed notes also about that. So again, I love that for that reason.
I love that. Satoshi is like, we might forget to assign next week's tasks. We gotcha. Alejandro gotcha.
Gotcha. All right. So I think are we done with questions and things? Yeah.
We can
Sounds good.
definitely like follow up in the Slack channel if you have more questions. I think this is a really interesting topic too. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is. All right. One sec. This is arc. All right. Okay. So 1 second. Let's move some away. All right. So we have two issues as always. And let's begin with this one. This is, I guess, straightforward, right? So as a user, I want to be able to delete items from my shopping list. Yeah. So I think we mentioned this in a office hours or in a comment that we were thinking about, like preventing the user from creating like tasks by mistake, right? But this is the issue. This is the fix. So if you make a mistake, you just delete the task and that's it, the to-do item on your list. So this is about it. Yeah, we have a wireframe. So let's take a look at that. Yeah, so you can have this small CTA here, right? And one important thing is that this is a destructive action. I think that's how it's called. Basically, something that will alter the status of the app in a drastic way, right? So you have to let the users know that this is going to happen. Like, hey, you're going to delete chicken soup. I don't know. So are you sure about that? And if you confirm that you are sure about that, you go ahead and delete it, right? Yeah, destructive actions here. So yeah. Oh, another thing is that you probably want to create, I mean, if you're thinking about creating your own model, don't do it. That is a mistake. I mean, for the time we have, that is not the way to go. you can use the browser's default confirm, but like modal dialog, right? So here's the documentation for that as well. So let's see. Can we? Yeah, it's this thing basically. So you can use that, and that is perfectly fine. If we had more time, yeah, we probably write our own model, but we don't have the time, so it is what it is, and this is fine. All right. So, do you have any questions about this one? Okay. Yeah, this one is pretty straightforward. And this one is meaty. This one is meaty. Okay, so let's see. As a user, I want to view a list of my shopping list items in order, right, of how soon I'm likely to buy each of them again. So right now we have all the items in the list, right? But what we want to do is that we want to like categorize them in different like blocks, so to speak, right? So for instance, if I want to buy something that is soon, that is like one category. The other one is kind of soon, not soon, or inactive, right? So you have to create some new UI elements so the user know, that they are sorted. And what else? You probably be thinking about using colors for this, like, oh, if it is urgent to buy it, it should be red, right? But the thing is that users with vision problems, I would say, right, with disabilities, they wouldn't see the red as you see it, right? So be aware of that. And if you use an icon, you would have to explain what the icon is doing, what it is. So the easy way to do this, to fix it, is just to, say that soon, like this, I'm going to buy chicken soup soon. I'm going to buy, I don't know, flowers kind of soon, and all that, if that makes sense. There's even a stretch goal, right? But that's up to you if you can do it or not. It is not a deal breaker, right, for us to approve the work. And yeah, let's see the notes just in case. There's a lot to do. Yeah, with the section, some ideas. Oh yeah, so Firestore database, they have timestamps, right? And you need to call to date to get the JavaScript date, so you know what is going to be what you need to buy soon, kind of soon, of that. You cannot did something like that in the previous work, in the previous tickets, right? But yeah, so there's that. What I told you about urgency in the UI. So if you use only a colorblind users won't be able to tell the difference. So the color, it's not just using color, is not the way to go. And if you use icons, you have to teach the users what those icons are, right? So maybe it is just fine to use plain text, right? That's fine. And yeah, so we're sorting by active, inactive. Yeah, this is the criteria, right? Active, inactive, and the kind of soon, all that, and alphabetically by name, right? And yeah, this one is pretty big. So compared to deleting an item, this is more complicated. Any questions about this one?
Great question.
Sure.
Do we have like a wireframe, or could we have one of what this should be looking like?
That's a great question. Let's see what we have in wireframes. Let's see. Welcome screen, empty. I don't think we have anything, actually. Yeah, I don't think we have anything. Maybe you can, what you can do is that you can, like, oops, like have a title over here maybe, or next to the item that says soon, kind of soon. But yeah, we don't have a wireframe for that. That's a good question. Jufa, sorry to put you on the spot, but how did you do it last time? You have this fresh.
I don't remember we had a wireframe as well. Mm, I think similar to what we have right now. I know that we still don't have the styling yet, so really just kind of putting them into different categories. For now. And then we can, I mean, in the last 2 weeks, if we have time, we can group them. I think we tried to group them, but we didn't have time. But obviously, different, teams can choose different priorities. It will make sense to group them, right? So as long as it's just like showing like, oh, need to buy soon, or for this few different categories, that's okay. Yeah, I remember we had a we didn't have any wireframe to show us what it should look like.
Yeah. Thank you, Jufa. So yeah, I guess, yeah, maybe grouping is harder to do. Maybe like just having something that says X soon. What is that? Fluffer nodder? Okay, yeah, that kind of soon. And like as long as you have something next to the item that says you're going to buy this in this like time frame, that's fine. Don't overcomplicate with grouping. If you have time, yes, do grouping. But if not, that's okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Let's assign the issues then. Well, I don't know who are the groups for the week. So let's see. Who wants to grab 11 first, which is delete?
So we
It's
have,
okay.
yeah,
You raise your hand. Okay.
17. Ismari and Christina, Satoshi and Tila.
Christina, Polly, right? Yeah. There you go. All right. Guess. Yeah. There you go. All right. Any other question about this? We have 5 minutes if you want.
Out of curiosity, if me and Christina did pick issue 12, and in your experience, like with filtering items in a list, what would be like the most optimal way to do a grouping? Some like having a filter saying like soon, and then it filters all the soon items, clear it out, all the, like a traditional like filter like on a website. If I'm looking at a listing like posted like within the week or a month from now or 3 months from now. I'm not sure if there's like a clean cut way to do it. I just was curious because I've never done that before.
Oh, you mean like how to do the filtering? Is that the question?
Yeah, is that what you mean by grouping too? Like if there was like a button that the user clicked saying like, show me all of the items that I want to buy soon. And when they clicked that, it only showed the soon to buy items.
Oh no, what I think about this, how I think about this is you have all the items and each item says soon, like all the items that are soon are like one next to each other. Then all the ones that are kind of soon are after those ones. Like you still see all the 10 items, but they would be ordered differently. So soon together, then kind of soon, and then I always forget the other one. Not soon, I think. Yeah, not soon. And then inactive. But you will see all the items on the screen. Yeah, you don't have to do any pagination, like create new pages or like navigate between each other. Yeah, you don't have to do that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was just curious. Thank you. That's why
That's
I
a
was
good
like
question.
thinking, like, what would that look like?
Oh, no. That is a really good question. Thanks for asking.
I just wanted to share some kind of personal news with you guys. I'm starting an internship tomorrow that I'm really excited about.
Oh my gosh.
Yay!
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Hey.
I had a very quick interview process over a couple days last week and then got the offer and they're like, can you start on Monday? So
Wow,
that's happening. Yeah, so I'm
that's
really
awesome.
excited. Thank you. Just want to let you guys know because I'll be a little less responsive during the day kind of going forward because it's full-time hours, but I'll still be around on evenings and weekends and when I can. So
Cool. Is it a local company?
Nice.
it is, yeah, it's a
Mm.
Denver area startup that does like clean energy, which I'm really excited about because that's kind of the industry I was hoping to get into eventually. So I'm happy that it's kind of starting now, sooner.
Yeah,
That's
I feel
awesome.
like Denver startups realm is really growing. I feel a lot of companies are over there, especially like clean energy.
Yeah, definitely. We actually have Denver Startup Week happening this week. It's like a big week-long conference event with a bunch of different companies and stuff, which is cool.
Cool. That's awesome.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
Amazing.
Congratulations, Gum.
it's big.
Thank you.
You can utilize what we talk about like really right away.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be taking notes like you guys recommended on all the stuff I'm working on so I can remember it later.
Yep. Ooh, the flutter nutter sounds so good.
What is that?
Danielle sent something.
Oh, okay. Let's see.
Peanut
Yeah.
butter and marshmallow sandwich. Oh my goodness.
I wonder if at that
Wow.
point you should just eat like a piece of cake, but I don't know. Cut your losses.
I definitely ate those when I was a kid, I will admit
Oh
it.
gosh.
They're delicious.
Oh my goodness.
When I read
All
Flutter
right.
Nutter, I thought of what is like that like chocolatey, like wafer type dessert that also sounds like that word. What is it called? If anybody knows.
Nutter butter.
There we go.
Also delicious.
All right. Well, we are like, yeah, it's noon here. So we have office hours. I have office hours. So I think Tuesday, yeah, we'll make it on Tuesday. If something happens Wednesday, but I don't think so. Tuesday sounds good to me. Yeah, I guess see you then. I guess by 5 p.m. Central, I think. We don't have time zones here, so it's kind of weird for me. But I think it's 5 p.m. Central. I will send the invite to the channel. All right?
Oh, Tuesday?
Yeah, Tuesday.
Okay, 5 Central. And then Danielle will be reviewing all the PRs this week. Awesome. Have a great weekend.
Alrighty.
Congrats,
Thank you very
Tila.
much.
Like we're super happy for you.
That's you.
Thanks. See you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
See ya.
Have a good Sunday, everyone.
You too.